Think of all the cats we're saving right now by lowering the anticipation
So low. The bar is so low.
so low. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome into our little Dabble Fireside chat. Uh, we generate a lot of content. Here we
I'd say.
normally have multiple events per week, especially if you factor in our writing sprints, which we do 3 days a week. So you get a lot from us, and sometimes I wouldn't blame you if you were a little weary of our faces, but that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. We're just so happy that you decide to carve out a little of your everyday time and come hang out with us. But
Yeah.
of all of the different styles, levels of content that we create, one of my favorite things that we started doing a while back, more than a couple of years ago, are these fireside chats. And a fireside chat is a little different than like office hours. But in my mind, what I envisioned with the fireside chat is that we throw a topic out there and we just kind of talk off the cuff. Like we haven't really, I can't say we haven't talked about this at all, because I did message Abby and said, here's the idea I have. Here are some things that we could talk about. But that's like, I didn't get Abby's input on any, I didn't
We
gauge her
didn't script
response to
this.
anything. Right. This is
No
not,
script.
yeah. So this is just us just sharing our hearts and, picking each other's brain. And of course, we have the awesome Dabbler chat going on. NJ, who's been
Always.
here harassing us literally for 7 hours, waiting on us to go live. I'm just joking, but NJ, we love you. And I see that Bon is here, of course. And let's see who
Rob
else
is here because I saw the words like spike, and I know that's Rob.
we love a like spike. Don't get
Mhm.
don't get us wrong. We love it. So anyway, I had the idea when I floated the idea the other day with you, Abby, of let's do a fireside chat. And I'll just be transparent. One of the reasons that I thought of this is because I know that you were an art major in college, and so
Which I like to bring up at least 3 or 4 times a day, I feel like.
did you earn a degree?
I did.
Then flaunt it, girlfriend. That's what I'm just saying. Put it out there. You earned it. You
I
put
have
in the work.
2 in art, 2. So
Go for it. But I would imagine, and we've not talked about this, so I'm going on my assumptions, and we all know what assumptions get you. But I would assume that if you were an art major, that this is a topic that you probably have wrestled with before. And I can really only speak from my experience as a writer and being someone that has been in the writer community. Don't you love the catchphrases that we just, work into our lives? Been in the writer community for about 13, going on 14 years.
wow.
And I've met a lot of people. I think officially I've done more than 2,500 author interviews and just getting to know people and, building relationships. And the interesting thing is I have met some people that are very business focused, especially in the indie writer community. Not exclusively in the indie writer community, though, because most people, especially, and I've seen this trend kind of flip. It's always been this way, but I've seen it grow more in the trad pub community, is that traditionally published authors still have to do a lot of their own promotion work. And they always have, but we've always had this idea that when you traditionally publish, that there's this huge staff of people that work for the publisher and they go to work selling your book for you. And they do. Let's don't diminish what they do. But they publish so many books that you really get the attention of the publisher and the publicity staff of the publisher for a couple of weeks. And they, like, I get emails from publicists all the time. I get probably 100 emails a day, and they're all pitching books that are upcoming, and this author is available for interviews, or we solicit reviews and all of this stuff, and literally just scan through every day, just looking for anything that's interesting, for an author that has an interesting story that would be fun to share with the writer community. um, but the reality is that they get that attention from the publisher for about 2 weeks, and then it wanes, and then you'll get little sprinkles here and there, and they've moved on to the next book and author that
Mhm.
they need to promote. It's just the way the business is. So what happens is the author, um, grabs hold of that publicity window that they have. They try to generate as much buzz as they can, and then it's on their desk to take and continue to promote that book. And hopefully they've gained some traction, a little momentum from the publisher. But when that book's been out 3, 4 months, it's the author themselves that are making
Turn it
everything
on.
happen. So, and this is a whole different conversation, the trad versus Indian, how the business is
But it
changing.
doesn't matter at this point
Exactly.
because at
Exactly.
some point it's the same.
It is the same, because like I said, as soon as that window closes and you get about 2 weeks, you're doing the exact same work as every other indie published author out there. So
Mhm.
it's the great equalizer. So I said all that to say, I've met a lot of people, and I've met a few very business minded authors. Um, and I would say becoming more so. Um, but I've never met anyone who got into publishing, writing and publishing, for the thinking this is going to be my retirement plan. I'm going to publish 90 books, and this is going to, it's going to continue to make money for years to come, and this is just an income generator. Everyone I've met, and of course there has to be a few exceptions, though I can't name any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are. Um, People get into writing because they feel like they have something to say. I've said it over and over again. Everybody I know got into writing because they felt like they had a story to tell. They had something they wanted to share with people. In our cohorts this week, I shared
Mhm.
the very first page of fiction I ever wrote, and it was dark. But it came from a place where I felt like I had something to say about it.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, and it all grows and changes and all that. But at the core of who we are and what we do comes this thing that we have to wrestle with. Are we artists? Are we business people? Can we be both?
You know what?
Tell
Well,
me.
two things. One,
Okay.
my art degree is telling me right now, my photography background, do not have a plant that grows out of the back of your head, which I can see is happening right now. So the first thing that I really want to do is move my plant so that at least my art degree can speak for itself. Okay, now that's bothering me less. All right. Second thing is, did I ever tell you what my minor was in college?
I don't think so. Maybe you have, but I don't
It's
remember.
business.
Interesting. Now, I didn't know that, because I felt like that would have stuck with me. And a
Yep.
minor in business. So,
I got a minor in business because, and that was my dad's idea. He was like, if you're going to minor in something like fine arts, you're going to need to know how to run your own business. And so I did. I got a business minor. They tried to get me to have a business major, and I was like, peace out. I'm not going to be a pencil pusher all day. I believe I said those exact words to the head of the accounting department.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I did. And then the strange thing is, I have also worked for three small businesses, two that were still considered startups. And I have learned a ton about the small business world. And that's essentially what authors are. They're authorpreneurs. If your goal is to make money from your writing, and that
right.
is not everyone's goal. So I think that's the first thing that we need to acknowledge is there are a lot of people who are writing and it is their hobby. It brings them joy. They may think it would be great to be a New York Times bestseller, but that's not why they're doing it. And the fine arts world in general is full, the creative world in general is full of people who do it for their own edification and not to make money. But there is a subset of people who do it to make money. And the funny thing is, I was just talking to a couple of my fine arts friends about this. Actually, two of them are coming over this weekend. Naomi is one of my girlfriends who is like me. I got a fine arts degree, but I think I always knew I wasn't going to make money off of my own fine art. I didn't learn it because I wanted to turn it into a business, even though I got a minor in business.
Yeah.
I did it because I enjoyed doing it and I wanted to teach others how to do it. So I always had that education spin. Naomi was the same way. She said she never got into it because she wanted to open an Etsy shop or have a gallery or, pursue that level of art. And there's high art and there's low art. And I mean, you've kind of got me started on something that probably is going to take the conversation and veer us in this direction.
This is why we do fireside chats. Why we don't have a structure. We have a topic.
But then my friend Mark, who's also coming over, he's a ceramicist and he is not a production potter. He's a fine arts ceramicist. His work is not so much functional as it is just beautiful. And he wants to make his living and his money off of the work that he makes. And it really wasn't until I discovered that creative writing was my medium, that I started thinking about making money from my art. So this was the first medium that made me think, I think I could do this and make money off it, and it would make me happy. So for what it's worth, I feel like my whole life has just been small pieces falling into place along the way to reach where I am now. But what about you, Hank? When you started writing, why did you? Because your first page was dark, like you had. I almost feel like we just need to read it for everyone so that they understand. I mean, you had something that was burning inside of you that you had to get out after listening to that first page.
Yeah, it was literally a man who was sitting with a gun in his hand about to commit suicide, and he was thinking about he was like almost analytically thinking about the process of suicide, like what happens. He was talking about like did you know that when you put a gun in your mouth and pull the trigger, most people lose their front teeth because the recoil. Yes, and he's like just analytically going over the process of suicide. It's really dark.
It freaks me the hell out. And what I wanted to ask you was, did you really look that up? Is that real?
Yeah. It was something, but it was not something that I looked up. It was something I stumbled upon one day. Like I read somewhere and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And you know how you like just collect information and file it away somewhere? I was like, I don't know, like that's really dark and weird. But there's probably a place. Are you okay? I'm
no. The answer is no.
I'm probably one of the most optimistic people you'll ever meet. So that was not from personal experience, but it, we come up with things, who knows where from. But
well, there's something interesting that caught your imagination and you felt like you needed to explore it because my friend Melanie, who when I first started writing, she and I did a podcast together. She was one of my co-hosts along with Jenny Nash of our podcast. The first line of her first book made me think of yours because her first line was so brilliant too. She was like, the first time Quinn tried to kill himself, he chose the wrong tree. Which is like, I mean, it hooks you.
Yeah.
I mean, it really hooks you.
Yeah.
And I mean, this has been almost 10 years and I still can't forget that line,
Right.
So
right.
there's something in there that
Yeah. And I'm a sucker
needs to come
for openings and endings. Like
out.
I've said, we did a whole thing in our cohort where I had my group of writers decide what their opening was and what their ending was, and then from there build your book. And
Mhm.
so I'm a huge fan of getting in someone's head early and kind of not letting it go.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, yeah. Um, But what I wanted to know is, as
Mhm.
an art student, and I know you had a minor in business thanks to dear old dad, but what is
Mhm.
the sentiment from your instructors, from the kind of what's the word I'm grasping for? The
The
leaders of your
faculty.
program, the faculty, like in that whole art versus commerce debate. Is it talked about at all?
So
Yeah,
my
because I'm not an artist.
medium.
I don't have a window in that world. Although two of my kids do have art degrees, um, and one of them, Chloe, who I call Gracie, is a full time artist, and that she has an Etsy store and she makes
Mhm.
like folk art kind of stuff, and she has a booming business this time of year doing Christmas gifts and ornaments and all that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, but she kind of stumbled on that herself, and college did not prepare her for how to market her art
Nope.
and all of that.
Nope.
Like, not at all. It was not a conversation that happened.
No.
So
And
I
it
was
was not
just
a conversation we had.
okay.
Now,
That was my
but
curiosity.
but I think a lot of it depends on what your medium is and what
Yeah.
kind of art you're making. And there is more of that uh the closer you get to craft. And my medium was fibers and textiles. And we oftentimes, in order to be in some of the
Hmm.
fine art shows, because it's considered a low art, we would have to call ourselves mixed media to be considered, because otherwise it's considered craft. Pottery can kind of fall into that same category. Jewelry can
Really?
sometimes fall into that same category. Those are the ones that you're going to see people hustling to have these side businesses, Etsy art, things like that. Some of the painters.
Hmm.
Now, I do have a friend, Phil, who's a full-time painter, fine arts painter. He also makes prints of his work. He also makes t-shirts of his work. He has a commercial bend to his subject matter. His vibe is a little bit more commercial. He makes the rounds for art shows and things. He has a very busy season in the summer when he literally travels all over, and then he
Hmm.
spends the winter down here in Florida producing his work. And he has a website. But no, school does not prepare you for that unless you're in graphic design, which is completely different than regular fine arts. And my sister, graphic designer, owns her own business and makes more money than she would care for me to tell everyone. So it depends on where you are, what your medium is.
Yeah.
And her department, I think, leaned more towards business than my department did. We went to two different schools. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and my business degree, by the way, was not focused on art and how I would start a business with my own art. It was more just basic. If you work for someone else in business, this is what you would do. So,
Gotcha. Um, to answer your question from a minute ago, when I started writing, I just wanted to tell a story.
mhm,
I wanted it to connect with someone. Um, and I got, and when I first published it, I was sharing it on Facebook and stuff with, people that I knew locally. And a bunch of those people bought my book, and I went to some friend's house for supper one night, dinner, whatever, whatever part of the country you're from. And I saw my book sitting on their coffee table in their living room, and I just about lost my mind. I was like, holy crap, there's my book. I wrote those words, and surreal, Um, and and I was satisfied. That was all I needed from that experience. All I needed.
Mhm.
And after that, I started meeting other people in the writing community, and my horizons were expanded a little. And I met other people, and I uh, met people like Nick Cole, who we've had on podcasts before, and he was doing um, this I'm struggling to explain it. It was this project that was a bunch of writers got together. Nick proposed a topic, this kind of this scenario for this weird um multiverse time travel kind of thing. It was called Apocalypse Weird, and he wrote the first book in it. And then he recruited a whole bunch of authors, and he said, we're going to do like the improv people do, and we're going to take
Mhm.
the yes and approach. So I wrote this book, and I want you to then think of how you could create a story
Yes,
in
thank
one
you.
corner of this universe, and then take the yes and. So whatever I've created, that has to work into your story and then expand on it. And so
Mhm.
it was about 25 of us, I think, and we created this whole tapestry of books. And it was a fun thing that we did for about 2 years, and it kind of ran out of steam. But I made a lot of friends through that. And my horizons were opened up. Um and anyway, that's so I started thinking more about writing more, because when I wrote that first book, I when I was writing the book, and I think a lot of people have this experience, that you think, well, this is the story I need to tell, and when I get this off my chest, I will have said everything that I need to say. And and that happens to a lot of people. You're like, well, I need to tell this story, and then I'll be good. What happens to most people is you get about three-quarters of the way through that book, and all these other ideas start coming up, and you're like, oh, well, I want to chase that idea one day, and it happens to everybody. And so you start making notes, well, I'll get around to doing this and this one day. um I flirted with the idea early on of trying to pursue being a full-time author with only doing that, and I decided pretty early on that that was not going to be my goal. I didn't want to just get up and write books all day, every day, although
Mhm.
I do love writing. And but that was just not. And I thought a lot about it, and I actually wrote a blog post about it a while back. I'll post it in the chat here in just a minute. But it was called "Your Day Job is a Blessing, Not a Curse," and this came from a conversation that I had with Jacob actually last year when we were in Las Vegas. We were eating dinner, and we were talking about a lot of the people that we were going to meet, because very indie author focused people doing this full time, and chasing that. And um and I just shared with him that I think most people would benefit from having a day job that can pay their bills, and they don't have that stress hanging over them. And I think it actually would make you more creative than less.
Mhm.
And before I came to work for Dabble, I was working full time for myself. I had this podcast called Author Stories, and that's what I did full time. And I talked about writing every day. I did 5 podcasts a week, and what I found was I didn't have any more time to write than I had before. You still are going to have about an hour or two of really creative time every day, and the rest of the day is chasing things that have to be done. And
Mhm.
that doesn't matter. That it's the same if you work for yourself or if you work for someone else. When I came to work for Dabble, I actually became more creative, and I have written 8 novels in the last 3.5 years. Whereas that time when I was working for myself, I think I wrote
Yeah.
one and a half.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. And so um I I have never been hung up on the I've got to get to this point where I just want to have the freedom to say exactly what I want to say when I want to say it in the form that I want to say it. And to me, that's creative freedom.
Mhm.
And, you know, bestseller list, that's amazing. That's wonderful. But I'm more happy creating a bookshelf with my books on it that I'm going to leave to my family, and I will have said everything that I wanted to say. And for me, that is success. And that's not to say that that has to be your measure of success. That's just what it means to me.
Do you know what? So when I was working for Author Accelerator, I was one of the people who would look at the applications when they would come in for people who wanted to be paired with a book coach. And one of the questions was, what does success look like to you? And there were so many of the people who would send it in and said, New York Times bestseller, New York Times bestseller. Well, the funny thing is, Jenny asked me that one day, what's your measure of success? And I said, actually, I would just like the Cleveland High School Alumni Award for having written a book. Like, I felt like I was setting my bar so
Right.
low. Guess who has not decided to give me an award yet? And that would be Cleveland High School, even though I did teach fine arts there for almost 10 years. I feel like I should have an in. As a matter of fact, one of my childhood best friends is also a teacher there. She's on that committee. And every year I give her crap for not
As you
nominating me for
should.
that award.
You know what? I'm boycotting Cleveland High Scholl from now on.
Thank you. Thank you. But
Yeah.
I can say, not to toot my own horn, toot, but I do know that someone is nominating me for my university's fine arts award.
Boom.
So I guess that's better because that's bigger, the university. But
Well,
and I didn't even have to ask them to do it. They did it all of their own accords.
well, that's
I guess
technically
that's
better.
even better than me begging my high school to give me the award.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I've said it before, but one of the reviews that I've gotten in the past that I was most proud of was for my book writer's block. And this lady read it, and her review was, I literally snot cried. How do you get better than snot cry?
do you know that since my book has started to find its way into the world,
Yeah.
I have had some parents and even some children, some kids knocked on my door yesterday to talk to me about my book. Some of the neighbor kids came by, knocked on the door, and wanted to tell me what they thought they had finished it. And having kids, not adults, but kids, love the book is like the only thing I need to keep me going to make me want to write the next one. And it's not
Right.
even like I have hundreds or thousands of kids. I mean, I have a dozen kids that have said something about my book. And, the little boy that I wrote it for he's a reluctant reader. He's read it more times than I have. And I wrote the damn thing. So to me, that says a lot. Last night, one of my friends wrote me and said her son had 3 things to say about my book. 1, could I also make it a movie? 2, would there be a sequel? And 3, can I send him my next book? I felt like that was a great review.
Yeah.
I had another. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have another mom who, and I'm not even really friends with her. Sometimes she's like my sister-in-law's friend that I met once at a wedding, 15 years ago. And her kid ended up with one of my ARCs. She said her child leaves everything everywhere. She doesn't keep track of anything. She's like in, 3rd grade. And she took my book to soccer practice to show all the other kids. She was about halfway through it. And when she picked up her stuff to leave, she turned to her mom and said, "You better not leave my book behind." And she was like, "You don't know what a great honor that is, because this child keeps track of nothing. And all she wanted to do was keep track of your book."
Wow.
And I was like, That's what I want.
Well, here's the ugly truth that no one wants to talk about in publishing is
Mhm.
you can sell 1,000,000 copies of your book, and you have no idea how many of those 1,000,000 copies actually got
Were even
read.
read.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How many people actually cracked the cover of the book and read the thing?
Mhm.
So for children to come to your door and say, "Mrs. Matthews, I read your book and I want more," or for someone to say, "I snot cried," that means they
Yeah.
read the stinking book. And
Yeah.
isn't that why we
And
all
it
got
meant
into writing?
something.
Yes, it meant something. And
Yeah.
so, and of course, I'm not downplaying success. I don't wanna sound like the guy who's not sold 1,000,000 copies of the book and is just, you know
Rationalizing why it's okay.
exactly. So I don't wanna be that guy because selling 1,000,000 copies of your book, is an amazing feat, and if I had done that, I would be tooting that horn. Don't get me
And we
wrong.
kind of want it still. Let's not
And we
lie. I
still
mean,
we obviously want to sell copies of our book because if we're writing a book, we're doing it because we want it to mean something to someone, and it can't
mhm,
mean something to them if they don't buy it. So,
right.
that it's where the art and commerce are connected at the hip in this weird um tension, where we want to write something and we want it to be honest and we want it to mean something to people, but we also want to sell copies of it because that is the
Yeah.
mechanism that gets it into the hands of people for one.
Right.
And of course, we want to be compensated for the time that we put in. We want it to feel because in the society that we live in, there is a monetary um, attachment that goes along with success. It just is. If you sell a certain
Mhm.
number of copies, you feel successful. If you're being reimbursed for your time, it in the same way that good reviews, having people actually purchase the book, that means something as well. So I don't mean to shine a light more brightly on one side than the other because they're both important. But I think it would do us a lot of good to remember why we started writing in the
Mhm.
first place and kind of remove all the attachments, all the things that we've hung on our writing as things that we never got into writing to do. Of course, our writing can change and the things grow and other possibilities avail themselves to us that we didn't think of in the beginning. All that's true. But I think it's so important to just reconnect with that initial love, because in the long run, that will make your writing better and hopefully your
Mhm.
sales better because
Yeah.
readers pick up on that. They pick up on the passion that you put into it, uh, and then that translates to sales, and then that to positive feedback, which makes you want to write more, and on and on.
Yep.
I feel like I'm rambling at this point.
No,
About
you're
to preach.
not.
About to pick up an offering in here.
Rock on. keep keep going. I agree with you.
That's great, eh?
I tickled you, didn't I? You
Yeah,
didn't expect that, did you?
no,
Like that's my art degree at work, you guys. Look
right.
at the expert shading on that sweater. I mean,
That's pretty
that was
incredible,
pretty good.
honestly.
Pretty good.
I wish you had another camera where he could be calling in from Tim Hortons or something.
Do you need me to like set up my iPad next to me right here?
No,
We can have a third screen.
the
I was
little
just waiting
brother
for the right
has
moment.
appeared.
So what happens when you take a vacation?
Yeah, that's what happens. So you got no formal training in like in art school. They taught you to be an artist, to
Mhm.
hone your craft, but then
Yeah.
there's no preparation for what to do with that. Like
No,
I'm
not
just
like how to
genuinely
balance
curious.
your checkbook, not how to, yeah, none of that. None of that. Now, I do think that that probably varies from school to school, but it wasn't really something that we talked about, not like finances for artists or how to set up your own business for artists. And, that's something that I've actually had to sort of like blindly find my way through. I mean, in today's day and age with the internet, you can ask Chat GTP how to like set up your own LLC, or what's the difference
Right.
between an LLC and an S corp, or
Right.
things like that. You can kind of figure it out. But no, not even with my minor in business did anyone ever really tell me how to set any of that up.
So
And
when you
so
graduate, are they just like, okay, here you go? Good.
have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Have fun making choices.
some degrees, there are members of faculty or people in the business office or whatever who help with job placement and stuff, especially if you get a technical degree. None of that, like just
No, I actually thought I would just get a graduate degree, and I actually got in to do my MFA at SCAD, and then so Savannah College of Art and Design. If you guys aren't
oh,
familiar with the anachronism, SCAD, or not anachronism, what do you call it when you put the letters together?
acronym.
Is it acronym? Thank you.
Yeah, very close.
I'm only a writer who works with words,
But only
but
some of those words.
not all words. That's like that word is above my pay grade apparently. So, but anyway, no, I did get into SCAD, and I have a feeling had I gone there, it would have been different. There would have been. I got in, and I ended up, because I was also young and passionate, I got very angry that they put me on a tour bus to the freshman dorms, and I never got to see my department. And I stormed out and decided not to give them my money. I don't
That's
always make good choices.
well, I've gotten to meet some writers who have MFAs, and a
Mhm.
lot of writers who don't have MFAs. And even the people that
And
have MFAs, although most of them are very pro MFA, obviously,
because they
a
have
lot of
one.
them
Yeah.
will entertain the argument, like, did the MFA make me a better writer, or did it teach me to, better work habits? That's
Nope.
something that people don't like to talk about.
I I will tell you. So I have had this conversation before with someone who shall remain nameless,
Okay.
just to protect the innocent, as will the school where he got his MFA, but it's quite famous. Now, he and I sat down one day, and we were like, he had an MFA in creative writing.
Mhm.
I do not. My master's is in art education. All right, so do with that what you will.
Yeah.
All right. I learned everything I know about creative writing from being book coached, developmental editing, working one-on-one with professionals. And I did that. I think at the time that we did this, I had about 5 years under my belt that I had done that in. Now, I added up the amount of money that I spent and or traded services for, and he added up the amount of money he paid for his MFA. And in the end, dollar for dollar, we were almost even Steven. And you want
Wow.
to know what the difference was? I didn't just have one book. I had 2 books at that point. I might have had 3 books at that point, and he had none.
Ooh.
He had so many connections in the art world, or the creative writing world.
Yeah.
I knew a bunch of editors and book coaches. I knew a bunch of writers, but not like I won the Newbery
Right.
writers like he did.
Yeah.
But it
D
didn't get him a book.
I was about to say, did those connections benefit him? Like Like, yeah, you know
No,
a bunch of people.
and the thing that was upsetting to him, and he said, at the end of their program, they take this big trip. All the writers go on this like big graduation trip, and that they were all sitting around in this cafe, and they all realized that none of them had books at the end. And they thought going in that when they left, they'd have books, and they didn't. And so, I don't know why. That's the thing that I don't, and neither one of us could figure it out. We weren't smart enough to figure it out. But I don't think you need an MFA or a creative writing degree, period, or an art degree to be an artist.
Yeah.
These are things that you can learn. You can learn on your own. And I'm going to go so far as to say a business degree doesn't always help you out here either, because I have half of one. We'll call a minor in business half a degree. I have half a degree. I still have like half a degree in Appalachian studies. So I'm going to throw that out there. Like, apparently I just like to collect useless degrees.
Well,
But it didn't help me.
I have a computer science degree, based on, uh, you know, uh, when IBM mainframes ruled the world, and which 5 years after I graduated was obsolete. I did some Y2K conversions in 1999 and, did pretty well there, but, I have
Yeah.
not worked in IT in decades. So,
You know what sometimes higher education teaches you? I mean, like, if we're just going to have a hot take, here's
that's
my
what
hot
this is.
take.
This is literally hot take central.
Teaches you how to play the game.
Yes.
What
100%.
it does. Teaches you how to play the game. So,
Yeah. And not that that's nothing. Like,
I mean,
if you're
coming from a teacher,
right, like if you're going to navigate the waters, understanding how, how the channels flow, it's not nothing.
No.
But it's like, my my daughter Gracie, who was the first one to get an art degree, um, the most of what she learned was the Adobe suite. And she would come home and she's like, "Hey dad, let me show you something that I learned in Photoshop." And I would then show her before she had a chance to show me. And she was like, "How did you know that?" It's like, "I learned on YouTube. I literally taught myself Photoshop on YouTube, literally." And she was like, "Well, that stinks." It's like, well,
Yeah.
so almost everything that you need to know, you can find for free. But they're, one of the great things about college is, yes, it teaches you how to play the game and teaches you how to network, and but it's kind of a missell on, because we think we're going to learn all of this, and what we've really done is just figure out how to network, and we've still got to be continually educating ourselves for the rest of our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just got to have grit. I mean, that's the thing that I think. I mean, I know you can teach that.
Yeah.
That's hard to teach. But you just got to have grit. I mean, that's what, to me, this is about, because fine arts and creative writing, there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And the moment you put yourself out there, the moment it becomes something you want to make money at, that means you have to put it out there for other people to read. You have to put it out there for other people to judge.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to deal with that in such a way that you continue to go on. And so I think that's, to me, more difficult than figuring out how to open an LLC.
Right.
Or opening
Because
a
you can
business
Google
checking
that.
counter, learning marketing, or all those things. And even though the marketing piece shifts and changes and the tide blows the wind a different way. I mean, I totally just mixed that metaphor, I know. But like all these weird things happen and there's no guarantees in any of it. And, you just kind of got to go with the wind. But as long as you can deal with rejection and negative reviews,
Yep.
and keep writing and keep producing and keep learning, I think you're going to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And the more you produce, the more you do, the
mhm.
better you get.
Yes.
Because we mentioned this earlier in our cohorts this week, we read our first page of our first draft of our first book. And then we read the final edited, and I moved mine. It was right here. And even my final published piece, it was like 14 books ago for me. And I kind of cringed. I was like, oh, I'm so much a better writer than that now. Like, but it is what it is. It's a timestamp. It's a moment in time. It's a reflection of who you were in 2012,
Yep.
and it is what it is. You can't go back and change it. It's published. You just got to, move on and write the next great idea that you've got. So we're 3/4 through the hour. How do you feel now? Because like I mentioned that when I came to work for Dabble and I had a full-time job, 40 hours a week on a good week, with doing cohorts were more like 50 hours a week. But I've become more creative by taking on this other role, which is counterintuitive. I know, because if you work for yourself, you're supposed to have, you know, you should write 8 books a day. You've got all the time in the world, and that's not it. But I've actually come to embrace where I am in my creative life, and I feel like I'm more creative than I've ever been. I feel like I'm a better storyteller than I've ever been. And 5 years from now, I'll be even better, and I'll look back on today and think, there's that guy then. But because of the change in mindset and the embrace of a different phase of life and all of that, um, oddly enough, it opened new doors and new avenues
Yeah.
that I hadn't considered before then. Like, I've got 2 trilogies publishing with a traditional publisher this year. And that was not something that I pursued at all, but you know, it happened, and I really think that it's through the change in my mindset and the
Yeah.
change in my focus of my writing. I became a better writer. I've stayed in contact with other people, continuing to meet people, grow. I'll just say this as a side note. The one reason I think the writers should have day jobs, or at least find a way to get out of your house and get amongst people, is one of the writer's greatest tool is listening to other people. And if it's just going to a coffee shop and eavesdropping on conversation, as creepy as that sounds, I know, I admit it,
We all do it.
but we all do it. And there's no substitute for observing human behavior, especially if you're a writer, as someone who is supposed to be a reporter of human behavior. If you isolate yourself and never observe human behavior, how can you write about it? That's one great thing that a day job gives you, is interaction with people. And writers, we love to talk about how we're introverts, and it's cliche at this point that every writer I've met is an introvert. No, you're not. You just don't want to leave the house.
I'm not an introvert, but also I don't always want to leave the house either.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm
I
the
get it.
kind of person, I can sit at my desk in my office, not talk to anyone all day, perfectly happy. But then I also love to be um, around other people. I have a huge family, and we get together all the time. I have a very vibrant church community that I'm a member of, and we get together all the time. And it's good for me to be around other people and to see people in their ups and their downs, and and all of that. It's good for you to be around other people. And if you're going to be someone who writes about the human condition, you got to be around other humans. And I don't know where I was going before that, but anyway, that's
We'll take it.
yeah,
We'll take it. Do I have to stop being a hermit? The funny thing is, so my best friend on Friday nights, I usually go over to her house for dinner, or she
yeah,
comes over here. And sometimes she'll walk in and I'll be like, oh my God, I have to tell you this and this and this and this and this and this. And she'll look at me and she'll be like, you haven't talked to anyone all day, have you? And other times she'll walk through the door and I'm just like, hey. And she's like, did you have a live show today? Yeah. I
yeah,
talked to Hank for like an hour, so I'm good now. So
yeah.
thanks.
Vented everything out I needed to. Yeah,
I got it all out.
yeah, yeah. So, I, I don't know that we solved any problems today.
None.
But
It's okay.
that's okay. We're here just to. This is real life, and this is something that if you're going to be a writer, these are things you have to consider. And
I think, okay, I was
no,
going to
no,
say,
no,
I
no,
think
no.
everybody expected us to have marketing tips for them today.
Yeah, that's not
And
what
we
this
got
is about.
nothing. I
Yeah,
mean, we're only a marketing team. And we're like, we got nothing for you. Apparently, we're
yeah,
not a very good one, right?
yeah.
I think we're pretty good.
I do too. I do too. But what we talked about earlier about when you said that Jenny asked you what success would look like for you, I think
Yeah.
that is an honest question that we should ask ourselves, and we should revisit that question often, because those
Yeah.
things can change. Like my idea of success at this point is different than it was in 2012. And it's okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to chase big numbers if you're in that point in your career where it's time to do that, but it's not always.
I think the answer to that question for every person should help drive what they do next in
Yeah.
2026. If your answer to that question is, I want to sell 1 million copies, I want to be able to do this full time, and this is how I make my money, this is what makes me retire, this is what makes me whatever, you should be making decisions based on that goal. You should be chasing it in some way, which probably also means you need to be really savvy about the market. You need to be savvy about what's selling. You need
Yep.
to be reading what's selling in your genre. You need to be aware of what the market trends are. You need to try to stay a step ahead of them, maybe be the trend setter. If you can figure that out, you're going to be the one that is like, all right, what's the latest marketing trend? I better have this kind of social media going for me. You're going to be really paying attention to that.
Yep.
And then there's going to be other people who, if your goal is to make someone snot cry and that's it, then your steps for 2026, I think, are going to be more along the lines of, how do I tap into an emotional thread in whatever it is that I'm writing, and then just get it into the hands of the right people. And so you might not care as much about marketing trends, even though you still have to figure out how to get it into the hands of the right person who's going to snot cry.
Exactly. Exactly. And marketing is not just about selling books, but it's about writing the kinds of books that will get read. And no one gets into writing to not have their books read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
No, I
James
mean,
Patterson might sell 4 million books this afternoon, but are 4 million people going to write those books, or are they
so
going to put it on their shelf? Like I have all these unread books on the shelf that people have sent me and that I've never cracked the cover on.
So
Don't tell anybody.
there's one writer that we worked with at Author Accelerator, who she came to Author Accelerator, and her whole goal was to write a book and get it into the hands of one reader. And that reader was her father. And she wrote a book just for him. And she put it in his hands. And his reaction was what she wanted. And look, it's choking me up.
Abby's
Because
going
she
to
did
take
it.
the
She
squall.
said, I am going to not cry.
I love it.
But if that's your goal, then that's what drives what you're doing next year.
Yep.
So
I can't think of a better way to end this than on that sentiment. Next year, but take these last couple of weeks of this year, figure out why you're doing what you're doing. Is it to sell 1 million copies? Great. We're here to help you do that. Is it to be a better writer and to make someone snot cry? We're here to help you do that. So, but be honest about why you're doing what you're doing so that we can help you achieve those goals.
Get there.
Yeah, get there. Abby, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, peace out, everybody. Have fun, make good choices, right?
Right.
Maybe don't make the choices Abby makes. Don't do anything I would do.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.